teacher. They killed my mother, my father, denied me religion, disallowed me to read or write for over 300 years. They reduced me to the level of an animal where they branded me on my chest, branded me on my pockets with a branding iron. And they called me 3/5 of a human being in the American Constitution. Is that the act of a human being or the act of a devil?
Have the workers of iniquity no knowledge, who eat up my people as they eat bread?
Let's deal with common sense. The Egyptians of antiquity, not the Egyptians you see today in that land, okay? That usurped that land, that pushed those real Egyptians out into the Sudan, okay? The Sudanese over there. Understand that. The Ottoman Turks and Arabs got together and pushed them out. So when you understand it's the Egyptians of antiquity that I asked about, what color were they? I'm asking you. Yo, we don't know. Everybody knows. They were black.
The evil that men should turn their brothers into beasts of burden, to slave and suffer in dumb anguish, be stripped of spirit and hope and faith, only because they are of another race, another creed.
Listen, where's your kingdom? Where's your land? Where's your castles? Before Alexander, name it, you can't, because it does not exist.
Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, saith the Lord, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity.
Yo, shalom, family. I wanted to run this rerun of the Holy Seed with you brothers and sisters while we chop it up about that information. And I got my brother Elisha here with me. We're gonna be going through this information. For any of you brothers and sisters that might have missed it, I think it's pertinent information when we start talking about who is the bearer of the nation and how do we recognize what an Israelite is, or whatever nation you are, according to what Scripture is saying. I think it's important for us to recognize that a nation is determined by the Father and the Father alone. And the Bible is a testimony to that. When we look into, who was the first Hamite, who was the first Shemite, who was the first Israelite, who was the first Edomite, Ishmaelite, and so on and so forth, right? All these nations derive from men. So, Brother Elisha, do you have anything to add on that before we get into this video?
Yeah, something lightweight. When a person was thought of as being mixed, that type of terminology, even that type of understanding, is relatively new to current history. Like in antiquity, you didn't really go by this person is half black, half white, or half Chinese, half Indian. You were the seed of your fathers. Does that mean that the woman doesn't play a part? Y chromosomes and all these, Y and X chromosomes. No, it doesn't mean that the woman doesn't play a part. It just means that the DNA markers within your body that you're going to pick up from your mother and your father doesn't change the seed that you come from. The father's the only one that produces the seed. You come out of him. That's the seed that fertilizes, that goes into the soil. And I think that because, and I noticed that for a fact that this is because things have been classified into race, that we start talking about, well, I'm half white, half black, and things like that. And I've seen somebody recently who said that a person was half white, half black, but they have to go by their black side, not considering that these terminologies wasn't even around. And is that you're only what your father is. You come from Esau, you come from Esau. You come from Israel, you come from Israel. That's the only thing that counts when it comes to determining nation. Color is irrelevant because all nations can come in different shades, even the Edomites in some parts of the world. If you go to the Sephardic, so-called Sephardic Jews, or um, that they can be of darkened complexion, but they'll be Edomites, Saudi Arabians, Edomites, even though they're of a darker tone than the white people we see today. So just to throw that out there, I know that you're gonna get into more detail in the video, but I think these new terms have really caused a lot of confusion, and that I think it really hides who Israel is when we can't determine who we are based off of skin color.
Okay, so I'm trying to queue up this video. Um, so here we go. I'm going to mute my mic and I'm going to queue up this video. Oh, before I do, just give me the okay if you can hear it. All right, bro. Elisha, you heard me?
Yeah, yeah. You said
So just say okay once you hear it.
all right.
Presentation. The name of this presentation is
Yeah, I hear it, bro.
these. All right.
You got to turn it up though, but I hear it.
The importance of the life within the man. All right. So let's start. Introduction is this. Can women become pregnant without men? Who is responsible for life in the womb? What did Onan do that was worthy of death? In the debate concerning abortion, determination of life in the womb, and the responsibility of men, these three questions are inherently linked to one another. As per Jubilees 1 and 7, Onan, and Besul all made seemingly unconscious attempts to stop Tamar from being a foremother in the lineage of Judah. It is important for Israelite men to consider the life inside their loins is the holy nation of Israel, and therefore giving birth to the nation of Israel begins with men, not women. Men give women their seed to nurture and care for. For 9 months, women can terminate a pregnancy. However, only men can abort their seed. The holy seed of Israel lights. The holy seed of Israelites. Men does not belong on the floor, on a towel, in the body, in or on another man, right? In some homosexual act, right? It doesn't belong in the orifice of a woman's body or on another man in some homosexual act. Neither does it belong in a woman who you are not married to. It does not belong in a woman you do not trust to nurture and care for your seed for 9 months. It does not belong in a woman who believes that my body, my choice gives her the right to end the life of the Israelite growing inside of her. Men of Israel, this abortion debate is again all about you. It is our responsibility to protect our seed, protect the life that Yah has placed in our loins, and stop allowing our women to bear the brunt of this debate. This is our responsibility. protect our women, and protect our seed. So the areas of discussion is this. What is the biblical and secular meaning of seed slash sperm? So that's what we're going to talk about first. Then we're going to talk about what is the function of the seed. Then we're going to talk about if or not the seed is alive. And lastly, we're going to talk about what is the biblical narrative of the seed or sperm. So let's start. And ask ourselves, what is the biblical and secular meaning of the word seed or sperm? The first thing we want to discuss is the definition of the word seed. We will discuss both biblical and non-biblical terms. This will help you understand more about the seed and give clarity to what we mean when we use the word seed. Is it a plant? Is it semen? Is it lineage? Let's start with the biblical terms. The definition of seed. Could you read that for us, Brother Hal?
Sure, brother, no problem. See, there's a threefold usage of this word in scripture. Agricultural, the farmer held his seed in his upturned garment, casting it out as he walked. Grain was sown in the early winter after the first rains. Christ's parable of the sower is well known. Mark 4, 1 through 20, Luke 8, 5 through 15. Land was measured by the amount of seed which could be sown on it. Leviticus 27, verse 16. The wilderness was land not sown. Jeremiah 2, verse 2. Physiological, seed of copulation, is a frequent expression in the Hebrew laws of cleanness. Leviticus 15, 16. The New Testament speaks of Christians as having been begotten by God of incorruptible seed. 1 Peter 1, 23, 1 John 3, verse 9. Figurative. Here seed means descendants. Genesis 13, 16, or genealogy, Ezra 2, verse 59, Nehemiah 7, verse 61, or a class of people, seed of evildoers, Isaiah chapter 1, verse 4, the holy seed, Isaiah chapter 6, verse 13, Ezra chapter 9, verse 2, is a special designation of the people of Israel. St. Paul's use of seed in the contrast to seeds in Galatians chapter 3, verse 16, had for this purpose a proof that the promise of Abraham were realized in Christ. This is an example of rabbinical exegesis used by the apostle against his rabbinical adversaries.
Thank you, brother.
Yep.
So, the Zondervan Bible Dictionary gives three categories in which we can apply the word seed: agricultural, physiological, and figurative. We will be dealing with the two of the three: physiological, which pertains to the copulation, and figurative, which pertains to descendants. These two areas are the concern based on their direct impact to the growth of a nation in regards to population. Brown Jarvis Briggs definition of the word seed. And you can find that in the Hebrews 22:33. And it says zera. It says one, seed, sowing of offspring. Two, a sowing. Three, seed. Then it says one C, semen, viral. One D, offspring, descendants, posterity, children. One E, of moral quality. 1E1, a practitioner of righteousness figuratively. And lastly, it says 1F, sowing time by metonymy. Now, so the Webster Dictionary says seed is the substance, animal, or vegetable which nature prepares for the production and conservation of the species. The seed of plants are a deciduous part containing the rudiments of a new vegetable. In some cases, the seed constitutes the fruit or valuable part of the plant, as in the case of wheat and and, and other a succulent grain. Sometimes the seeds are enclosed in fruit, as in apples and melons. When applied to animal matter, it has no plural. That form, and this is two. It says that from which anything springs. First principle original, as the seed of virtue or vice. Thirdly, principle of production. Praise of great act, he scattered as a seed. Waller. 4. Progeny, offspring, children, descendants, as the seed of Abraham, the seed of David. In this sense, the word is applied to one person or to any number collectively and admits of the plural form, but rarely uses in the plural. Race, generation, birth. Of moral seed, they were not held. Waller, once again. So, the Webster's Dictionary offers a combined definition of physiological and agricultural aspects merged into one biological perspective. The seed is the principle by which the life of a species is preserved. This is what we can calculate or conclude from the first segment of the definition. Okay, so that's the Webster. And let's see what we got next. Now, the Webster's figurative narrative of seed. Posterity, posterous, noun, posterius from post after. One, descendants, children, children's children, etc. Indefinitely, the race that proceeds from a progenitor. The whole human race or posterity of Adam, right? And it says again, in a general sense, succeeding generations opposed to ancestors, progeny, offspring, children, descendants, as the seed of Abraham, the seed of David. In a sense, the word is applied to one person or any number collectively in the midst of the plural form, but rarely uses the plural. Once again, this is the Webster's figurative narrative. All right, so the etymology and the definition of seed. Could you read the etymology on the side here, brother Hal?
Sure, no problem. Sperm, male seminal fluid, and directly from the Latin, from late Latin sperma, seed, semen, from Greek sperma, the seed of plant, also of animals, literally, that which is sown, from spearing, hope I pronounced that correctly, to sow, scatter, from pie, from root to spread to sow. Sperm bank is attested from 1963 for sperm whale, see spermaceti.
Thank you. All right, so here we have the definition on the right hand side of the word seed. And it says under here, under the nouns, it says the unit of production of a flowering plant capable of developing into another such plant. Cut open the pepper and remove the seeds. as an example. 1.1, a quantity of seeds, grass. Underneath that, we have 1.2, the cause or latent beginning of a feeling process or condition. In conversation sown a tiny seed of doubt in his mind. And two, a man's semen. In a similar way, human males feel a biological need to release their seed at frequent intervals. All right, so we have the etymology of seed slash sperm, and we have the definition of seed according to the Oxford Dictionary. So, what is the conclusion of this all? All these definitions were shown so that there is no confusion on what we are speaking about when we say seed. Furthermore, what we can gather from these definitions is that the seed derives from a man. When speaking in terms of biology in humans. So, this conversation is not about Eve and the figurative meaning of her seed. This is about the seed within the man and what is upright and prudent in regards to maintaining a healthy knowledge of the life within us, as well as disciplining our minds and spirits to make beneficial choices for our nations. I'm going to say that, I'm going to read that one last time for you, brothers. All right? Listen, this is about the seed within the man and what is upright and prudent in regards to maintaining a healthy knowledge of the life within us, as well as disciplining our minds and spirits to make beneficial choices for our nation. All right, so moving on. What is the function of the seed? Now, in this one, we're gonna get into some terms that we're not even that familiar with ourselves, but the functionality of the seeds. All right, we're gonna talk about what is its purpose. All right, we're gonna also talk about what role does it play in reproduction. We're gonna talk about how does it work. We're gonna talk about what happens when its goal is met. And lastly, does that goal go beyond fertilization? All right, so these are what we're going to discuss concerning the seed. So, what is the seed's purpose? The spermatozoa in plural, and it's funny because when we was looking at this word, we was like, you know, I said I'll probably pronounce it alakazoo or something like that. But I think the brother Eric, the brother Eric had the correct pronunciation for it. What did you say the pronunciation was again, brother?
Man, you know I'm from the South, man, so I might not even have it right. But spermatozoon.
Sounds good enough for me. It's better than where I was going with it. Spermatozoa. It says spermatozoon in the plural, spermatozoa, right? Or sperm cell is the male reproductive cell that is expelled along with the seminal fluid or semen when a man ejaculates. In humans, spermatozoa determines the gender of the baby to be, which means that they can carry either the X or the Y chromosome. All right, moving on. All right, so what role does it play in reproduction? All right, so the function of the spermatozoa is to fertilize the egg cell, creating a new organism called the zygote that would develop from embryo to fetus during 9 months of pregnancy. Human sperm cells are haploids, which mean that they have certain 23 chromosomes. Um, I would like to get you brothers' thoughts on that right there. when it says that it creates a new organism, what are your thoughts on that?
Maybe to transform that sperm cell into what it needs to be to start developing. That could be it.
Yeah, I think the idea of creating something new, I, again, we're not biologists in any sense, but I, I would think it's less about creating something new and more about development, the next stage in the process. Um, it says creating a new organism called zygote that will develop from embryo to fetus. So I think it's more about developing the next stage in the process. How is it going to look in the next stage? We're going to further in this presentation, we're going to talk more about life and what is alive. So again, just to explain my thought on it, I think it's less about new and more about development and the next process.
What say you, brother Yash? Brother Yash is here. But
I'm here. I just had a problem unmuting my thing, but no, it's just a scientific way of explaining the process of the miracles of the works of the Most High without including him in it, or in other words, trying to make an understanding of the Most High's works without mentioning how he does it or his miracle.
That's an awesome observation right there, and also what the brother Hal was saying also, I'm more in line with that in terms of what this actually is, because when we talk about a new organism, that is to say that it's not a human then, if it's transforming into a new organism, right? So I think it's more of development versus a new organism. It's one organism that's developing, and this is just another a path towards its development.
Yeah, and the Book of Jubilees also agrees with that. I'm gonna find that passage while you just go on into your thing.
Okay. Okay, so this is my analysis. The male gamete or sperm and the female gamete, the egg or ovum, meets the female's reproductive system when sperm fertilizes or meets an egg. This fertilized egg is called a zygote. Zygote, that's the pronunciation of it. And the zygote goes through the process of becoming an embryo and developing into a fetus. Now, one of the things we had an issue with is like, what is this gamete? What is that? So we posted the definition down here at the bottom, which says gametes are an organism's reproductive cells. They are also referred to as sex cells. Female gametes are called oval or egg cells, and male gametes are called sperm. Gametes are haploid cells, and each cell carries only one copy of each chromosome. All right, so the chromosomes that they have, like I said before, 23 chromosomes. Each of them have that, and each of them have one dose or one each of each. All right, so that word gamati, that definition, that fits pretty well. Do you brothers understand that definition?
Yeah, that I think that definition is pretty clear. That it's that's just the name for the what one would call in layman's terms the sex cells.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Moving on. How does it work? All right. So I need you to read this for me, Brother Hal, if it's not a problem.
All right, not a problem at all. And forgive me if I pause a little bit. As you can see, the font is just a little off. So not off, but italicized, I think. So fertilization. Once released, egg and sperm alike are destined to die within minutes or hours unless they find each other and fuse in the process of fertilization. Through fertilization, the egg and sperm are saved. The egg is activated to begin its development program, and the haploid nuclei of the two gametes come together to form the genome of a new diploid organism. The mechanism of fertilization has been most intensely studied in marine invertebrates, especially sea urchins. In these organisms, fertilization occurs in seawater, into which huge numbers of both sperm and egg are released. Such external fertilization has been more accessible to study than the internal fertilization of mammals, which normally occurs in the female reproductive tract after mating.
Okay, so they just explained the whole process of how it works just now, but it's what they said at the end. It kind of tells you that the even the knowledge of how things work concerning people is limited, right? Because they said they can't observe these things happening within a female or a mammal because it happens in an enclosed inside the female's body. All right. So unless some woman gave up her body for study for this to take place, it's really no way for them to take place or to observe it um outside of some petri dish somewhere, right? So did you have something to add to that? Anybody else?
No, I was just gonna really say the same thing that you're saying. How would they know the actual process or be able to determine it without being able to see it, when it's happening? But
Absolutely.
knowing them in the level that they'll go to, they'll probably have two people demonstrating in front of them.
Yeah, they could do that too.
Yeah. I think from a part of what this definition is like pointing out from a scientific perspective, they're using a lot of guesstimates to say, okay, this is how it appears, or this is how it is rather in marine life. And it's easier to study because they can see it in the water, right? And they assume that this is the same type of process that happens inside of a mammal. And so a lot of what they're studying again is guesstimates. This is how it happens in the water in marine life, so this must be how it happens inside of mammals. And I guess it would be fair, although I'm not a scientist, it'd be fair to say that a lot of science is guesstimates and doing tests on things that might be relative to another thing that you can't actually see.
So even their hypothesis is not even formed based off of what they've actually witnessed within the human body. And even as elaborate as this image right here looks, this is all CGI. This is this is what they believe happens, right? This is what they believe happens. This is not concrete per se. Bill Yash, did you have something to add?
Exactly.
If you don't Uh, nah, it just made me think. It is kind of interesting though that they did use seawater. You know, because I think maybe the atmosphere of the sea is sort of, as far as the salinity of the water, maybe not as salty, but it it sort of mimics the inside of a
Like the embryonic fluid.
yeah, yeah, that. And but I was thinking of that, how interesting it said that through the fertilization, the sperm and egg are saved. The egg is activated to begin its developmental program, and the haploid nuclei, the two gametes, come together to form the genome of the new diploid organism. And it hit my mind, the two becoming one.
Mm.
That was just that just hit my mind.
Yeah.
So that's the importance of male female relationship.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I can agree with them that they're both saved through each other, through the merging of each other. They are both saved. Um, let's move on. Now we got this image right here, and this is what happens when this goal is met. Now this with this image, what we're doing, we want to really try to go into uh, fetus development, right? Um, what's supposed to happen as this seed grows within the body? What is it becoming, right? Um, and what we see right here is you have a fetus that's starting to form within the belly, and its arms and everything doesn't look like it's completely formed, but as you go further and further up the time frame, the fetus begins to have the arms and more distinct features that look like a fully formed human being. Now, because if the fetus doesn't have any arms, does that make it any less of a human being?
Right.
What about legs? If it doesn't have legs, does it make it any less of a human being? Or how about a nose and a mouth, right? Is that what makes it a human being, right? Because if we're gonna say because it doesn't have this or these appendages, right? It's not a human being. Then what about people who are born not having these things? Are they not human beings? There are people that's born with any kind of defect you can think about. There are people that was born without it. There are people that are born without eyes, people born without legs, people born without tongues, noses, right? There are people that are born without these things. Are they less human beings? There are people that are born without some parts of their brains, right? And that's why I want us to look at this. And once again, we're dealing with a CGI image of what they believe it looks like, right? As the human forms within the womb, right? So, what are your thoughts on that, brothers?
I guess the only question I would have for anybody who would say that a fetus or a lump, like how you look at the first stage there, they say that it's not a baby. If you look at that first stage and if you look at the last stage, this is 9 different stages here. Does Is there any less life in the first stage than it is in the last stage? Will be my question. How does it get to the last stage? It's like putting a seed in the ground. Once that seed is in the ground, now it's in its place where it could grow and germinate, but the life is still in that seed.
Exactly. And I was also thinking in that first, second, third stage, or we can all say the 5 stages at the top, where this we can call it baby, we can call it a fetus, whatever we call it, I think it's all the same thing, because it cannot survive outside of the womb or body of the female, does that make it any less human? Because it needs that nourishment, it needs that protection of the female womb to grow and continue the process of growing. So does that make it less human? Because it needs something, it requires something. I mean, when we're born and we're walking around, I'm now a grown man, I still need air. There's certain things that I need around me in order to survive, in order to live every day. How is that any different from the encasing of a womb receiving nourishment?
You know what I want to say also is that even after we're born, we're still developing. You know, even after birth, you know, there's still things that you know we cannot do physically. There are things that you know there's things mentally that we cannot comprehend or compute within our minds, right? Does that mean that an infant you know is not human now? You know, does it mean that you know a child that cannot perform the same task or the same biological task as a fully grown man or woman, are they now not considered to be human? Brother Yash, did you have anything to add on that? All right, so then we're gonna move forward. All right, so the images in the video we just watched were examples of fetal development. What I want to point out is that the same sperm that fertilized the egg has now merged or fused with the egg and begin to develop into a complete human being. This process will continue until a fully formed child is in the womb, at which point, sometime later, the child will be born. All right, so once again, we have the stages. All right, from fertilization to fetus to fully grown infant. All right. And we put what was that? Right. So I know a lot of people was thinking if you couldn't really get a clear image of it, you might have been asking yourself the same question, like, what the heck is that they showing? Right. But does the goal of the sperm go beyond fertilization? Right. The short answer to this question is yes. Beyond fertilization, there's fetal development, and after that, there is birth. Now, moving forward, there are 7 stages after birth that a human moves through during his or her lifespan. These stages include infancy, early childhood, middle childhood, adolescence, early adulthood, middle adulthood, and old age. And here's a chart that we can look at that will really in more detail describe what's going on during these stages and when we can expect them to take place. At the top, you see stage, period. You have personality attributes, and you have age. So you have the type of, how can I say, emotional uh graph here, or that we can expect certain things to happen emotionally according to the age. The early infancy, it says trust versus mistrust. So during those ages, you know, the child is learning to trust or mistrust one, right? Then it says toddler, autonomy versus shame and doubt, right? So this is just another a process through the child learning its own body, learning how to you know, its feelings. Then you have early childhood initiative versus guilt. Then you have middle childhood industry versus inferiority, and that's from age 6 to 12. Then you have adolescence, identity versus identity confusion. Now, you know, this identity confusion thing, you know, I think they're going somewhere else with that, right? But moving forward, young adulthood, intimacy versus isolation, that's 19 to 40 years old. Then you have middle adulthood, generatively versus stagnation, that's 40 to 65. And then you have older adulthood, integrity versus despair, and this is ages 65 and up. Um, what are your thoughts on these this graph and or what we read so far, brother, within this particular segment?
I think when I see the graph, it automatically strikes me that the ages, putting personality attributes on particular ages um, is kind of strange because we haven't always, um, been bound. I don't know how else to say. We haven't always been bound to this, age span. We look back and we see the ages of some of the biblical characters. They lived up to 900 years old, 600 years old, those kind of things. So what would the personality attributes be for them? It would be quite different. So um, I don't know when this particular chart was done, um, but it's I would assume it's very current. I would assume it's different for every country and where you live, and what your life is like, what your culture is like. So I don't know. I don't know about this. I don't know about this chart.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. How could you place these personality attributes in there without without any kind of without any type of understanding of what environment the person may be in, and even if you're in a certain environment, everybody's not going to react the same way. So I don't know what the purpose of the personality attributes were or what was expected uh they was expecting to get from it, but honestly, you can go through any of these things throughout all throughout your whole life, you know
Hmm. Hmm.
and it doesn't have a set age. If we're gonna if we're gonna be honest about you know when these certain personality attributes are supposed to take place.
I love Amir Yasharel's last comment. He said, "Put that chart with the 12 tribes chart."
Yeah. Yeah, you put it right there with it, right? Definitely, because it doesn't really have any place. They could have just, you know, it was good with the period and the age. You can go. Those are definite things you can go off of. You know, how what say you though, brothers? Eric and Yash, did you see anything outside of that?
Well, I guess when I look at
Well,
this
God,
chart,
understand. Yeah, I agree with you, brother Brian. That chart is based on a quote unquote normal uh life of a Caucasian, probably a Caucasian American child, but it doesn't take into account it takes nothing into account. Nothing. Not your environment, not your experiences, uh not society's ills imposed upon. It takes nothing in account. Like uh where is it at? Middle childhood, 6 to 12. Industry versus uh first of all, let me go there. 3 to 6. Initiative, early childhood, initiative versus guilt. Come on. I don't think I shoot. Heck, when did I feel guilt? Shoot. I probably ain't start feeling guilty about stuff until I was probably about maybe Well, not the first time I did. I remember I was 9 years old, and I did. I went to a church service, and I did. That's the only time I can remember it though. Is when they preached this thing, and I did go and accept JC in my heart. But I didn't really go through that kind of stuff. 11 years old. What do you, it says in industry versus inferiority. Well, I had a gun put to my head. I was 11 years old. You know, how many people at 11 years old had an adult man put a gun to on their head and threaten to blow their head off? You know, uh, so yeah, I rebuked that charge, just like brother Amir. I rebuked that charge. And okay, where was it at? Adolescence, identity versus confusion. That's how you know that they do these studies uh, in order to find out how best to apply their wicked machinations onto other children. You know what I mean? They figured, or in other words, what they said in middle childhood, this is the best time that we can confuse them into thinking that they're confused. This is the time where they chose to, and actually they started in early childhood with this putting these uh, sexual identity questions in the heads of children who aren't ready for it.
Yes, they did.
So it's just a way to manipulate their wickedness. You know, a friend of mine always says that white folk like to compartmentalize everything, and that's what they did. They've got your lifespan compartmentalized down to a science. That's my thought.
Brother Eric, you had something to say?
Well, looking at this chart, back when I took education courses, a lot of what we learned was based on Jewish philosophy. And so what this chart is really is them taking what's natural and implementing their own thing to it. Like for instance, early infancy. If you look at a child when they're born, they're trying to pretty much learn their way. Well, not necessarily learn their way, but they're at a vulnerable state within those ages ranges. And so it's at those times that they develop the a sense for their environment. They get used to who you are as the mother and the father, mostly the mother in those cases. But when you get down to the adolescent portion, identity versus identity confusion, you see a lot of that happening in society. But this is what they're pushing. This is why they want to promote a lot of things to the youth, but also is based on a model that they want to set. Like I said, they take what's already established and they try to pervert it. So ultimately, this is a model that's set that they want everybody to fall into, or a mold. And ultimately, they want you dead by the time you're 65. So that's what I get from the chart.
Yeah, that you and the brother Yash and Hal, y'all just made some really profound statements. I'm gonna put those on the table, right? Because I think we can further the discussion after this, just based off of those statements. But let's move forward. All right, so the conclusion of this all is that the purpose of a sperm cell is to be released during sexual intercourse and to eventually meet with an ovum or egg cell, which is produced by a biologically female body. All right. I'm glad they said that. All right. For those of us that don't know. Once united, the sperm will penetrate and fertilize the egg in order to create new genetic material. The end of the process is a fully formed male or female. The sperm's goal or purpose is to evolve, change, grow, and ultimately re- reproduce. Now, I put that there for a reason because the view that a vast amount of society has on the sperm is that the sperm is mature and that's it, right? But my view, and I'm not a scientist, I'm not a geneticist, a biologist, or any of those things. But my view of the sperm is that its goal or its purpose is to evolve, change, grow, and ultimately reproduce. All right. These are just stages within the human life. All right. So for us to look at the sperm as anything other than a human, then we are negating its opportunity to do these things. All right. Now let's move forward. Not unless anybody had anything to add on to that. No.
No, I think what you just said is pretty tight. There's nothing to add to that. Not from my end. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So next topic: is the seed alive? All right. Is it alive? And that's a that's a really good question right there. But these are my thoughts of it. What constitutes life? Why are people disregarding sperm as being alive? Why the devalue of one of the main components needed to create another human being? Is it because of the size of it? Because of the sperm's role? Is it because it comes from a man? Does sperm require nourishment? Does it have instinct? Trees, bacteria, germs, all kinds of microorganisms are viewed as living. Is the value of life according to its size? Is life only valuable when it has an immediate benefit to us as a people? In this segment, we are going to compare the sperm to a fully grown human and ask the question, is the seed alive? All right. What are your thoughts on that, brothers? It it is the seed alive? Is it dead? Is it alive? Is it just what is it?
Nothing, nothing on the inside of you is dead. Anything on the inside of you that's dead, your body's either gonna try to get rid of it, or you're gonna have to go to a doctor because it's gonna affect you, have a negative effect on you.
Hmm,
But nothing on the inside of you is dead.
hmm,
And even with that, there's some sicknesses that we get, some diseases, you know, cancerous cells that get into your body are are alive themselves, right? And they're put there to destroy, to kill other cells. So, even in getting sick, we have the sickness that's in us that is alive, and the purpose would be to kill that sickness. So, just to add a little bit to what Brother Ebri just pointed out, it's all life inside us, even if that life inside us is trying to kill us.
hmm. Brother Yash.
Is the seed of life. That's a real good one. Well, shoot, it swim. Um, so I would have to say, yeah. You know what I mean? Um, yeah. Because also they said the seed, it has a life. Oh, the seed. Yeah, the seed. See, now I'm getting a little mixed up. But both seed and egg have a lifespan, according to what they said. So, yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Now, we're gonna ask ourselves a question, right? What makes something alive? Could you read that for us, brother Hal?
No problem.
What makes something living? Principles of biology.
What makes something living? All living organisms share several key characteristics or functions: order, sensitivity, or response to the environment, reproduction, adaptation, growth and development, homeostasis, energy processing, and evolution. When viewed together, these characteristics serve to define life. Different sources may use slightly different terms to describe these characteristics, but the basic ideas are always present.
So another thing we seen on there was just homeostasis. And homeostasis is any self-regulating process by which an organism tends to maintain stability while adjusting to conditions that are best for its survival. All right, so this is basically the intake of energy, or the process of energy. Now, we as fully grown human beings, we get that energy through nourishment, right? And it's no different when it comes to the seed, right? It's in under here where it says, is it alive? It says the nutrients found in semen will keep the sperm alive and provide energy while they race to the egg. Their main energy source is fructose, a type of sugar. All right. So here's the thing. All right, we have the seed, which is instinctively swimming to the egg. And while swimming to the egg, this seed needs nourishment or energy intake in order to complete its journey. But not only that, this seed will or have sensitivity or response to the environment, right? Now it says all right, so it has to have a response to an environment. So if you take that seed out of that process and you put it anywhere else other than somewhere to for it to be able to be not produced but preserved, right? You take this seed and you put it anywhere outside of somewhere cold, that seed's gonna die. All right. Then now you got adaptation and growth and development. That seed does grow. It develops into a human being. It grows, right? It has an evolution, right? It later on it will reproduce. So another definition for what is the alive, right? Biology: having life in opposition to death, living being in a state in which the organs perform their function as an animal or a plant which is alive. An infant does not have the ability to reproduce, right? This is what I'm saying. An infant does not have the ability to reproduce. The argument is that the sperm is a stage as one is developing into fully grown human beings, all right? So an infant doesn't have the stage to reproduce, neither does a sperm cell, all right? That comes later on as it develops. All right. Um, thoughts and questions, brothers. No thoughts, no questions.
Some pretty good stuff over in the chat.
Oh yeah. What do we have here? I can't stop the presentation.
Uh, Notorious Hebrew said sperm banks are evidence that sperm can live outside of the man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It has to be Freud, and that's why I stated that. If you take the sperm outside of the man, but you don't put it in a situation where it can be preserved, it would die. So it has a response to its environment.
Yeah,
Right.
but I think that's a true statement. Definitely, sperm cells, egg cells can be frozen and
Hmm.
kept and maintained. But when we're talking about homeostasis, we're talking about self-regulating environmental changes or adaptations. So we're
Hmm.
not talking about anything like sperm banks or anything like um, what would you call a place where a woman stores her eggs? Yeah,
Hmm.
it would be called
Yeah.
egg banks. I can't think of it right now.
It's not the uterus.
No, no, no. I
The
mean,
ovaries. Does she store in the ovaries?
right. No, no. I mean, an outside process like a
Oh,
sperm bank. I can't think of what the word is right now. But again, when we're talking about homeostasis, we're talking about the adaptation of the organism itself,
mhm.
not something outside of that process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then you have to understand too, like even the process of how they leave the body. A woman doesn't have a choice whether or not she's going to drop an egg each month. Just a natural woman, depending on her cycle, or sometimes they vary, right? But
Hmm.
typically, a woman would drop an egg every month, right? A man would not release. He would not release seed unless he's stimulated to do so. All right. What happens to the seed within him? That's not that's not expelled. Just like a lot of different things, I believe they may be absorbed into the body at some point, right? Um, but let's keep moving forward. All right, so let's talk about the development and shaping of the brain. Could you read that for me, brother?
No problem. The development and shaping of the brain. The making of the human brain from the tip of a 3 millimeter neural tube is a marvel of biological engineering. To arrive at the more than 100 billion neurons that are the normal complement of a newborn baby, the brain.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with everybody's speakers. I don't know if it's mine or theirs, but everybody keep telling me they can't hear. So let me see if I can do something to fix this because I don't. Yeah, you can hear me, but you may have not been able to hear the lesson for some reason. So let me see if I can. Yeah, that you can hear me, but you can't hear the lesson. Let me see if I can fix this. Uh, performance. That's not it. Let me see. I'm not. I have no idea. Sound is very low. And there's nothing I can do about it. Yeah, I mean, my voice is coming in quite clear, but when I put the video on, the video isn't playing at its best. Audio. Okay. Maybe that's better. I don't know. That sound pretty loud. Let's see if I can get this going again. Let's try this one more again. Okay. Audio on there. Bam. Brother Elisha, let me know if you can hear it louder than it was before.
All right.
We must grow at the rate of about 250,000 nerve cells per
Yeah,
minute.
it sound louder to me.
Of course, pregnancy.
Hold on, I'm gonna hang up this
But
phone.
it is
Hold on.
not the volume of growth alone that makes the production of the human brain staggering to consider. The great number of functions that the brain reliably carries out and the specificity with which these are assigned to one or another type of cell or small location in the whole assembly are stunning in their complexity.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna restart it. Not restart it, but share my screen again. Share audio system. Share.
The feat of growing a human brain occurs in hundreds of millions of individuals each year. The brain's 100 trillion or so interconnections provide the physical basis for its speed and sophistication. But how is such an intricate network constructed in the first place? Does the genetic material of the fertilized egg already contain a full set of building specifications for the human brain, in which every cell is created as a minute increment in the overall design? And if the set of instructions is indeed so close and specific, how could chance or random mutations or the influence of the environment have played a role, as they so evidently have done and continue to do in the emergence of the first human brains?
So at the bottom there, we have the developing sperm within the egg as it develops into a human brain. And right here on the right, you have a fully formed human brain here. All right. Now notice what we're looking at here. We're gonna go a little bit further here, just to try to kind of give our perspective on the fetal brain development. All right, now we discussed this, and one thing we wanted to point out again, and I've said this before, we're not geneticists, we're not biologists, we're not scientists, but just based off of what we've seen, not only what I've seen just concerning these CGI things, right? But what I've observed with other animals, right? And some animals are not mammals. So I'm just as limited on the understanding as these people are concerning the observation of this process within people, right? But based off of what I've seen, right? I've watched the seed as it's implanted, right? Or it's inside of an egg and it begins to grow, right? That seed that's implanted in the egg grows throughout the yolk and it forms its connective nerves endings. It forms everything within the egg. The egg provides the seed with the body and the bones to protect it. But let's read. All right. So in this image, during fetal brain development, it appears that the sperm is encased in the egg and develops into the brain and spinal cord. The egg provides the flesh and bones for protection of the brain and spinal cord, as well as all the other organs that are connected to the brain. The original sperm still exists and now functions as the governing system for the body. All right. Now, so what we're looking at here, when you look at this, what you're seeing is that same egg or that same sperm cell growing within the egg. This light part, this transparent area, that's the actual egg. That's the body of the sperm. Let's move a little bit further so we can take a look at something else here. All right. We have the sperm and we have the brain and the stem. All right. You have the sperm and the tail, you have the brain and the stem. What we view this as, the brain and the stem, is a fully developed sperm, right? The sperm encased inside of the egg, and it grew its connective nerve endings and all those things to regulate the body. Everything is connected to the brain. The eyes, the heart, the lungs, all these things are connected or regulated by the brain. All right. And the bone in the body given by the egg, which encases the brain and the spinal cord for protection, and as well as other parts of the organs that are connected to the brain, the rib cage, you know, the sternum, all these different parts of the actual flesh and bone that's meant to protect that original sperm that encased itself inside of the egg. Did you brothers have any thoughts on that?
I know we spoke about this before, and again, this we don't we're not scientists, but the very idea that you would have sperm cells that come from men fertilize the egg that comes from women, and the very shape of the head of the sperm seems to become the brain. The tail of the sperm seems to become what the spinal cord. And this is the function, right? This is what controls the whole body of men and women, of human beings, is your brain, and that connection from your brain through the spinal cord into the rest of your body. And the brain being the center of your consciousness, as far as we know. It is the heart of what you are, right? If we hear in scripture, the word says, what is in your heart, it's not talking about your actual physical heart. It's talking about what is in your soul, what is in your spirit, what is in your brain. The brain controls everything about you. So we just thought it was incredibly interesting how similar they look in the growth and development of the fetus into a brain and spinal cord.
Well, Eric, did you have anything to add on to that?
No, I didn't have anything to add.
Okay. So, just to throw that out there, we're not even the only ones to make that comparison on that. There's been other people that have seen that same thing and asked that same question, and I would say this, we really can't trust everything that we've been told. again, this society wants to minimize the importance of life. So, I wouldn't put it past them to, say, okay, yeah, let's say that this happens right here instead of what actually happens, in order to minimize the importance of the life growing inside of you. Right.
Hey, I will say this. It does, once again, like we talked about before, goes to show that, once again, with the brain, the spinal cord, and everything, and the development, we see what that develops from how the life is in the seed, and there was a movie I was looking at once, not too long ago, where they were taking people and taking their brains, spinal cords out of certain people and placing them in these robots. So these robots ended up with these people's consciousness, and they trained these robots to serve certain purposes, but it also places more ownership, more authority and responsibility on us as men, because we see the importance of the seed and the development of the seed once it's placed inside of the woman that we choose to procreate with.
Moving forward. All right, so here's the conclusion of what we just went through. Is there proof that the head and tail of sperm cells develop to form the brain and spinal cord in human beings? No. However, the homeostasis pattern and key characteristics of sperm cells confirm that these cells are alive. We have no basis to disregard sperm cells because they are the commencement to human life. The value that men place on their seed is in direct correlation and constitutes the value men place on themselves and their loved ones. Life does not begin where human traits and functions are experienced by the senses. To be alive has a much deeper meaning. All right. To be alive, again, to be alive has a much deeper meaning. It goes beyond your consciousness of now. All right. Everything is a transition. Even what we call death is a transition. All right. What was your thoughts on that, brothers? And I gotta give hats off to the brother Hal for this conclusion because it's powerful. But what are your thoughts on this, brothers? If you could expound a little deeper, brother Hal first.
Right. Yeah. So in kind of formulating this conclusion, it was really for me all about, not finding definite proof, because again, I hate to keep saying this, but no, we are not scientists, and no, we haven't found significant proof to say that the sperm cell develops into the human brain and spinal cord. That's just the way it looks. It seems to be, to me, to be a bit of discernment to be able to say that. But the value of the sperm cell that comes out of us, out of men, should be valued as life. Because for all we know and for all we can conclude, it is life. It is the life of all of us, certainly of our nation. And for our nation to continue, this is what we need to cherish. This is what we need to take care of. I truly, certainly believe the way that this conclusion here is ended, that the value we put on ourselves and our family and our people is really in direct correlation to the value that we put on our seed. To throw this seed away is to not know, to be unaware, to, or maybe just not care what you are actually doing with your seed. For me, on a personal level, I haven't always known this. Even coming up as a Christian, leaving Christianity, now in this Israelite walk, I haven't always known this, but now I know. So now it's incumbent upon me myself to be careful and mindful and value my seed and what I do with it. So I that has become incredibly important to me. I didn't always know, so now I know. So what do I do now?
Brother Eric, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would say that the point is made that we're not scientists, we're not professionals, but I will say that I am convinced that this is the truth and that this is certain. I haven't always known it either. And, as always, I stand to be corrected. But what I would have to see is somebody disprove it. There's a reason why the seed of the man is being downplayed in a lot of ways, and it's because all of us, we are the seed of whoever our father is. That's who we get our identity from. That's who we get our consciousness from. Like you said, we were alive before, having feelings and being able to comprehend and sense doesn't constitute life. A person can be in an unconscious state and still be alive. And that's just like a lot of us, well, most of us, we're not aware of what was going on when we were in our mother's wombs. And even when we came out, none of us can really remember anything up until a certain point, and that was due to us being in an environment where things had to be made familiar to us over a certain span of time. Once that happened, then our consciousness kicks in. Now you see certain things, whereas when you were months old, you saw those things and never paid them any mind. But once you get to maybe a year old or 2 years old, now you're conscious of these things because you've seen them so many times, and now you're at a point to where you can comprehend them in a certain type of way. But you were alive well before that.
Yeah.
And it took going through those things, through those developments, to get you to a point of consciousness to where you could start functioning in certain types of ways. But yeah, I'm convinced, man, that this is the truth.
Brother Yash.
Yeah. Yeah, hold on. I had to turn on a different computer because I couldn't hear E's voice. This is interesting. Let me put it this way. All throughout this discussion, you were making a point that you're not a biologist, you're not a scientist, you're not, any of that. However, science, in many instances, science seems to or tends to it's like it's in place. It's a religion itself, but it's like it's been put in place to overthrow all common sense. It's like you're not seeing, or what you're seeing is not actually there, but we have an explanation for it, or or it seems as if science seeks to disprove the things that are obvious, that you obviously can see, and also at the same time it disproves the things that you can't see. It's like its own. It's like it's its own God unto itself, and it seeks to elevate itself above all natural order. Whereas now we have people who do have these degrees, and that's the reason why I brought it up the first time. Whom now you can't even define what a male or a female is. So my whole thought on the matter is, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, then it is a duck. I can look. You can look at the sperm cell. I'm gonna hit you. Hey, stop. Excuse me. Yeah, you look at the sperm cell and you look at the tail, and without the explanation, without a scientific explanation, if you're just looking at it, it does look exactly like the brain, and with the stem, with the spinal cord attached to it, or like a tadpole. It definitely has its own mission or authority, because your body will release millions of sperm cells, and they're all in a race to go ahead and get that and to meet that egg. They're on a mission. And the strongest one gets there first. Exactly. And the strong one does get there first. So there's a whole lot of thought, and there's a whole lot that is going on that is more than just chance or happenstance. And that is what you can't disprove, if you ask me.
Yeah. Well, I'll say like the actual seed tends or seem to be driven by instinct to go to the egg. So it instinctively goes there. So that in itself shows an early development of some form of consciousness, right? But I would say also what really summed things up for me within this conclusion that the brother Hal gave, right? It says the value that men place on their seed is in direct correlation and constitutes the value men place on themselves and their loved ones. All right. A lot of times, man, we're talking about semen retention. Honestly, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about semen retention under the understanding that the seed is alive. But not only that, by the means in which brothers are letting their seed go, it's not beneficial to the nation, right? If you're not married and you just put your seed into this woman and that woman, and you really don't care if she's going to decide to keep the child or not, that's not beneficial for the woman. That's not beneficial for the man. That's not beneficial for our nation, right? If you're and I know there's a lot of brothers dealing with this, right? If you're dealing with pornography, there's spiritual consequences for doing those things. When you're dealing with those type of things, all right, and you're letting your seed go, not only are you you're negating the rules that the Most High put in us to be fruitful and multiply, but you're simply spilling your seed, and you're allowing yourself to succumb to spiritual forces that may not leave you when you necessarily want them to. All right. So we have to as men be more prudent, be more wise, and be more disciplined in ourselves and how we're handling things, right? Our protection of our seed does not start when we impregnate a woman. It starts before that. It starts in different areas of our life, mental health, physical health, right? Everything that you take into your body, it affects the things that are living within your body, including your seed, all right? So it's really about, it's not about really to point the finger, but it's really about really taking responsibility for our own actions. All right, we're looking at all these millions of babies aborted, right? We're looking at this, but in order for those babies to be aborted, they had to be put into the woman first. All right, so it's really our responsibility. We are responsible for that, brothers. And we can't continue to be like, keep impregnating women and then start pointing the finger because they want to have abortions. Choose wisely. There's a lot of women out there. Choose one that will carry your seed for 9 months, and have the baby. Did someone want to add something to that?
Yeah, Brother Bonnie, a great word. I just want to put a thought into including the brothers on this panel. And we may know the answer to this, but I want to put this thought, this question into everybody's head. In the quote unquote so-called Old Testament, what was the reason for keeping eunuchs out of the congregation? What was the reason for an Israelite that had quote unquote bruised stones to be removed from the congregation? And just, if you don't know the answer to it, I suggest you look it up. I suggest you, study it scripturally. And if you know the answer to it, just contemplate. I just wanted to put that in there real quick. Thanks, Brother Bonnie.
Awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah, you know what? I've really been waiting on since you started this to say this. I had this conversation with my son. I think he was 15, 16. And his brothers, because he told, and his brothers. I had this exact conversation. And this is a conversation that the men of Israel ought to have with their sons. See, a lot of guys, a lot of men, we always want to have a boy. And the main reason why we want to have sons is because we don't have to worry about our sons coming home pregnant one day. That is a fact. Yeah. Now, first I'm going to shoot something out here. I raised girls. And for all the men out there, this is a little secret. It is much easier for you to teach your daughter to keep her dress down than to teach your son to keep his pants up. Now back to what I was talking about. That's true. I taught my son, and he's on here right now. So he'll yeah, son Jude is my son. So he'll verify this fact. That we must teach our sons the importance. I taught, no, man, because you already have one. All right, let me do this first. Excuse me. I'm gonna hit you in the head with this. Take it upstairs. Take it upstairs, please. Anyway, I told him the value and the importance of protecting your seed. You know what I mean? Because when he was starting when the little girlies were starting to get all fresh around him. So the main thing I told him, I let him know that that's the reason why our community or our people's in the shape that they in, because guys will sit out there and go willy-nilly and just want to go ahead and get their little rocks off, and you don't even know what kind of situation or what kind of family your thing even come from. I said one of the most important things to do is to meet. You want to at least know how their parents are. You know, you want to know if the mama crazy. You want to know if the daddy crazy. You want to know if they're known to be out there in the streets. In other words, I told them you have to make sure that you plant your seed in good ground. You know, I honestly told him, and it was sad, but I told him I got lucky with them because nobody told me this, you know, and I could have messed around and got things, you know, all messed up. It was just lucky for me in the will of the Most High that regardless of other circumstances that I went, brother, I'm here funny. Other circumstances that I had, the bad circumstances that I may have went through, at the same time, the Most High handpicked.
Yeah. Hey, yo, bro.
Yeah, I'm here.
Got an emergency, man. I gotta step off, man.
Okay.
I gotta conclude the live though.
Oh, all right.
I hope y'all enjoyed it though. That was the gist of the video though. That was it. I believe. I believe so. Or was there more? There was a little bit more. It was a little bit more. But I gotta conclude the video. I gotta step off to the store and grab some stuff real quick. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Yeah, we can chop it up a little bit more on it, brother, in a little bit.
All right, but just holler back at me then, bro. Shalom to all the Israelite family out there. Peace and blessings. Hope your Shabbat be blessed, and it's good to see everybody in here. So that the Most High bless and keep all your houses, and I hope you have a good Shabbat. Peace and blessings.
Indeed. Shalom and blessings.